A community in Houston is in mourning after a college student was found shot to death inside her apartment. Police say her newly installed security camera helped catch her killer after someone recognized him from a sugar daddy website. We're discussing it all with a retired detective. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Alyssa Milner. 21-year-old Muna Pandey, a Houston Community College student from Nepal who was studying to be a nurse, was found dead in her bedroom a little more than a week ago. Officials say she had multiple gunshot wounds, including an execution-style shot to the back of the head. Staff at Muna's apartment complex had originally found her body after they got an anonymous tip, which detectives say came from a male caller who didn't have caller ID. The caller said someone was dead in a specific apartment and just hung up. Detectives say they determined Muna had likely known her killer because there was no forced entry. The door was unlocked when the apartment manager went to check on her. According to court documents, investigators spoke with several of Muna's friends who said Muna, who lived alone, had an issue with a stalker about a year before she was killed. So she had installed a motion-activated camera outside of her front door. Police say that camera caught 51-year-old Bobby Singh Shah pushing his way into Muna's apartment with a gun. He was arrested during a traffic stop within hours of that photo being taken and was charged with capital murder. A judge denied bond in the case. We want to go through the probable cause statement filed with the court in Harris County, which states, upon making entry, detectives observed the complainant was laying on the bed on her left side with multiple gunshot wounds to her torso and a projectile sticking out from the back of her t-shirt. CSU and medical examiner personnel observed that complainant also had one single gunshot wound to the back of the head. Detectives spoke with several of Muna's friends who gave them information about her background and a potential stalker. Quote, he advised me that the complainant was a student from Nepal who was in Houston to attend college. He stated that her immediate family were all in Nepal and Dubai. He stated that the complainant lived by herself and had an issue with a stalker the year prior. He stated that as a response, he assisted her in installing a Vision Well camera. According to friends, after the camera was installed, Muna didn't have a problem with the stalker anymore, and they all believe she was out of harm's way. The stalker was not identified in court documents. But that camera may be the ticket to getting justice for Muna. Houston police believe it recorded her killer. The probable cause statement says, quote, at 20:40 hours on Saturday, August 24, 2024, the complainant is observed standing at the door to her apartment with a male later identified as the defendant in a blue shirt and khaki pants. She is observed holding a Nike shoebox, a shopping bag, a black jacket, and a black purse. The male is observed holding a black pistol in his right hand and telling the complainant repeatedly to open the door. The complainant asks, what are you going to do? To which the suspect responds by racking the slide of the gun and telling her to open the door again. When the complainant complies, he pushes her inside and locks the door at 20:41 hours. At 21:48 hours, approximately 1 hour later, the suspect is observed leaving the complainant's apartment and appears to be carrying the black purse, which the complainant was observed entering the apartment with. This time frame matches with when a neighbor stated that he heard a loud thumping noise coming from the apartment. After the surveillance photo was released, at least 2 people called Houston police to let them know they recognized the suspect. The first was a man who said Shaw had been a regular at his restaurant. That man also had an acquaintance who at one point had considered going into business with Shaw, according to the probable cause statement. The other tip came from a woman who says she recognized Shaw from years ago. The probable cause statement reads, quote, on August 28, 2024, at approximately 1500 hours, HPD Homicide Division received a call from a woman who stated that she recognized the defendant from a post on Grizzly Hood News. I spoke to her, who I found credible and reliable. She stated that she met the defendant through a sugar daddy website in 2012 and knew him as Bobby Shaw. She stated that when she saw his picture, she instantly recognized him. Court documents, however, do not say how Shaw and Muna may have known each other, and they don't make any connection between Muna and any sugar daddy website. Police have not released a motive. Muna's friends started a GoFundMe to help bring Muna's mother to the United States from Nepal and to pay for her funeral services. According to the GoFundMe, Muna was an only child. Stories like this one are obviously tough, but they're important to tell. And part of the reason we're able to do so is from our great sponsors like Upside. And I want to take time to thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of Sidebar. So, what's Upside? It's a free, yes, free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas and groceries. It's actual real cash back, too. Money appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. Here's what you do. Download the Upside app, then claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. I went to 7-Eleven, got some candy and some other snacks, and used the app, and honestly, it's super easy. You can use the app at places like Shell, Exxon, fast food favorites like Taco Bell, and that's just to name a few. To find out how much you could earn, download Upside or click the link in the description and use our promo code SIDEBAR to get 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Again, that's promo code SIDEBAR for an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas. Joining us now to break down this case further is retired NYPD Detective Dave Sarni. Thank you so much for joining us. Detective Sarni, this is really a tragic case. 21-year-old Muna Pandey was shot and killed in her own apartment, multiple gunshot wounds, and an execution shot to the back of her head. What does that suggest to you as far as the amount of rage the killer had against her?
You can see a lot anytime you deal with a body and it's maybe a one shot. This was a lot of anger. I don't know if they're going to be able to determine which was the first shot, which was the last shot, but this is a shot in absolute anger for some other reason. It's sort of if you're shooting someone from the back of the head, we don't know if it was in a torturous way, like on knees, or I know she was found on the bed that way. I don't know how the crime scene is looking. I haven't seen any photos from it. If she was shot on the bed itself or shot and placed on the bed, I don't know the crime scene itself. But this shows a lot of anger toward the victim here.
And detectives in Houston say they received a call from a man who didn't have caller ID. That caller said someone was dead in a specific apartment and then just hung up. Do you think that the killer was the defendant in this case? Or excuse me, the caller was the defendant in this case?
It's possible. What you'll probably do, and you do the best you can, is try and get some sort of phone records in regards to this phone call that was coming in. Um, Utilizing the technical skills that a lot of these detectives have and the technology we have in locating phone cell sites and the like, you might get a chance of finding, if we can connect the phone of the perpetrator in this case to the phone call made through some cell phone records or cell sites. Well, that's another way of adding a piece to the puzzle to convict this individual.
And surveillance video also helped piece together a lot of clues in this case. First, you had the surveillance video from Muna's apartment, which allegedly captured Bobby Shaw pushing his way into her apartment with a gun. Tipsters called police to report they believe they knew it was Shaw based on surveillance images. Do you think that his arrest would have came as quickly as it did if Muna didn't have surveillance cameras?
I think it might have taken a little bit longer. The benefit of the police is once you get that video footage and then disseminate to the public helped in a great deal in getting this person identified, and that's what we're really looking to do. A lot of times, the police of the public and the public of the police, going back to Sir Robert Peel, 19th century writing, and we work together to solve these things. The police will work and investigate, but the reality is we need the public's help a lot of times. And this identification came relatively quickly, which was great for the detectives to then develop the case against him.
And authorities believe Muna knew Bobby Shaw because her apartment didn't have signs of forced entry. In your experience, what are your thoughts on that? Or do you believe it's possible she didn't know him prior to her death?
Well, you have to look at a couple of things, and I always look at the why. Why at that time and place was she at her apartment, and how did he know to be there at that same time? I'm going to presume the detectives will look into that and develop that part of the case. You have the person arrested, but the arrest doesn't necessarily end the investigation. So the why as to why he got there at that time, hopefully will be answered by their investigation. And there's some sort of knowledge to that because given the fact that she was at he appeared at the residence and there was some sort of interaction between the two. So there may be some sort of knowledge between the two.
And Muna had previously told her loved ones and her friends that she had a stalker about a year ago. What are your thoughts on the stalker aspect? And do you think that the stalker may have been the defendant in this case?
I was reading a little bit on it, and I know her friend was able to put in the surveillance camera. The apparently when the camera came in, the stalker no longer appeared anymore. That might have been the deterrent in itself. Unfortunately, you're gonna go deep into the background of the victim, a victimology in a sense, and sort of a perpology, and tie in those loose ends as to what is the relationship between the two. Was that, was this just a happenstance moment? Which, given the fact that it's her at her residence, I doubt it. You're going to have to look at everything, and you keep that the broad mindedness and open mindedness of a detective. You want to get the totality of circumstances will get you to the end result of this case as to what the relationship was, and it seems like there was something. I think when they start looking at maybe her computer, his computer records, his cell phone records, her cell phone records, and any other evidence that's out there, and the forensic evidence they have, technological evidence, they'll determine as to that relationship. Was it a year ago that this happened? We don't know at this point.
And in your opinion, why do you think that Bobby Shaw may have allegedly, possibly targeted Muna Pandey?
And I don't know yet, and I think that's the big why. And when you do these cases, you are trying to get all the factors involved. When you have a perpetrator, you have a victim. There usually is connection of some sort, and in this case, there probably is of some relationship. I believe she worked at a restaurant and he was a customer there. So did something develop from that? I know there was something about him being identified by a person from a sugar daddy site that she was involved. Another individual was in. So let's see where the evidence lies out, where it all plays out at the end of this.
And continuing with the evidence in this case, when authorities searched her apartment, they didn't find her cell phone, which is pretty irregular for someone who's in her 20s. She's young, she lives by herself. Why do you think that possibly the killer in this case may have stolen her phone?
Possibly some evidence placed on that phone that shows a connection between him and her, some sort of nexus. A lot of times sometimes also killers will take trophies from these victims, some sort of items from them. In this case, it's a cell phone, which probably has some sort of connection between the two of them. And that was his best way of taking it, as opposed to leaving it there and destroying it, whatever. He thinks if you taking it away is going to stop the investigation. In reality, it's not. It's going to continue. And the great thing detectives did is that was already something they thought of already. Saw it not being there, attempted to make contact with the phone, and found that there was no contact with the phone. So
And kind of going back to the caller in this case that had reported to police that there was somebody dead in that specific apartment, that being Muna's apartment, do you think that that person who had called may have been the killer, may have had a conscience of guilt? And in a way, do you think it was maybe someone trying to wipe this guilt off their chest? Or do you think maybe it's possibly that the caller was maybe in a way trying to not necessarily taunt the police, but in a way trying to make it kind of this weird game as far as, hey, there's a body in this specific apartment, and then they just kind of hang up the phone, just see what happens next. What are your thoughts on kind of all of these facts and all of this evidence kind of piecing together and just these different circumstances in this case?
yeah, when you get a phone call so specific that there's a dead body, it raises up the hairs at the back of your neck. You're going, well, how would they know? And hopefully, if there's a recording of the phone message, that's great. You can do a voice comparison and the like. Could it be something where the individual made the phone call is the perpetrator, and there was that sense? It's possible, given the fact that uh, this individual has no criminal record, so it could have been him doing it, and then having that, like you said, that bit of remorse and feeling that something has to be done about it. Uh, this isn't a cold this The action was a cold-blooded killing. I mean, that's what you're looking at, but there might have been a sense of maybe I at least clear it up a bit, or someone he might have told that there was some engagement. So we don't know at this point until we really gather those facts. So it could be him, could be someone that he told, that he in confidence told, or someone else. We just got fortunate.
And in your experience, what does this kind of case look like from here? Do detectives are they finished with their work, or is this case still an active investigation? And if so, what type of evidence are they kind of looking for in this case to kind of further, I guess, help the court case as well too?
Yeah. These cases do not end with an arrest. One thing I've understood, and we've always done this as detectives, is an arrest based on probable cause. We're looking to convict the individual, we need enough evidence to bring to the prosecution that they can convict this person. So an inside location, fantastic. A lot of things you can get out of that forensic evidence, DNA possibly left at the scene from the perpetrator, any other trace evidence that's there. You're also going to look for, I guarantee you they're doing search warrants for cell phone records, trying to locate computers, because I'm going to presume not only does she have a cell phone, she might have a laptop computer. If that's been located, maybe that was also taken. We don't know based on the information. They're all going to do every bit of thing to have a nexus to the perpetrator and the victim, and to make sure that all the evidence they have is enough evidence. Because one thing about the American criminal justice system that people forget is you're innocent until proven guilty. And we have video. I don't know if there was confession made or statements made, but all you have is video identification. And somebody can say, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. So we need more. There's just not, you just ain't just going video alone. You're going to need a lot of pieces to that puzzle. And the totality of circumstances will bring you to that. And that's the evidence that'll be located at the scene, off scene. I believe it was a traffic stop where he had a firearm there. I guarantee if there were shell casings left at the scene, you're probably going to do you're going to do some ballistics on the firearm in his possession, plus of the shell casings, if there were any left at the scene. So we're not really sure of what kind of weapon he utilized. Was it an automatic or was it a revolver? Revolvers don't leave shell casings. Semis do. So did he clean that up? He was there for apparently a long time. We're going to work within that whole time frame. That apartment is going to be forensically reviewed from the door to the walls and everywhere in between.
And how important also is the statements from not necessarily witnesses in this case, but Muna's loved ones who she may have divulged information to as far as maybe any potential knowledge of this defendant in this case, or maybe that she met him, any kind of, I'm speculating here, but any of those statements to her loved ones. What are your thoughts on what they could say and how that could also help in the case?
Any statement is important, and detectives will work on those statements and look to verify the information with those statements. You just can't go on their word alone going, okay, she said she knew this person from where. And then we're going to look at locations if they have anything more specific in their information. Just a broad statement, we're going to be very specific. We're going to pinpoint what they're pinpoint and lock down what they're saying as to times, dates, locations, when you found out about this incident. So maybe we can actually locate other video sources of showing a connection between the subject, between the perpetrator and the victim at any given time during this, prior to the murder.
And I'm sure in your experience as a detective, you've seen a lot of devastating and tragic cases. And I imagine speaking with a lot of family members of victims of horrific cases just like this one. And I can only imagine the absolute heartbreak this does for a family. What are your thoughts, given Muna was an only child, and how her family might be feeling right now?
I can't imagine the pain the mom is going through. Your daughter moves away from you, across international lines, to further her life, and to hear this, it's sometimes inconsolable. The best you can do is do what's right for the family in any way you possibly can. I know she's trying to get a visa to come back to come to the U.S. to bury her child, and if it can't happen, maybe things can be moved along to get that happening for her. And that's how you show. You show by doing the job. Detectives want to do everything they can and keep the family informed of what's going on, of how the case is going. We're doing this. We won't give specifics, but you will pretty much tell them, this is what we're working on right now. You're still in our thoughts. We're not going to forget you. And that's one thing that unfortunately happens with victims, family victims. They're forgotten in the investigation because detectives, and this is not their fault. They're not any. You're looking to find the person. Now the perpetrator has been arrested. Whether we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt is based on what the detectives do, and that's our job. And that's how we do the right thing. Do the best for the victim's family. Justice is arbitrary in this sense. You may convict an individual for this, but the family's still out there and they still have no answers. So you just want to be there the best you can with what you can do as an investigator and what you can do as a detective and a human being.
All right, Detective Sarni, thank you again so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Before we sign you off, though, is there anything else about this case you would like to add?
I'm just hoping that it comes to the proper conclusion. And I think detectives And one thing detectives do, they do everything to the best of their ability. No stone will be left unturned in this case. And given the media attention, and sometimes it needs that, you'll see more focus. And I think that's one thing you'll do. And especially, I know Houston PD is going through a lot. And this is one way of showing that they're going to be doing exactly what they're supposed to do and do the right thing for the victims.
All right, Detective Sarni, again, thank you so much for your time today. Again, we also really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Have a good day.
All right, that's all the time we have for this episode of Sidebar. You can check out more episodes and subscribe to us anywhere you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. I'm Elizabeth Milner, and this has been Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime.